In the midst of today's fast-paced, high-tech business world, no other form of office communication is as widely used as the telephone. Millions of local, long overseas calls are placed on a daily basis. The problem lies in the fact that many of these calls are by people who have had little or no formal training concerning the correct way to manage telephone communications. Studies have shown that people form their initial impression of a company based on the first speak with and how that individual presents their self and their organization. Those first few minutes of a conversation can often mean the difference between a satisfied and one who will look to the competition. The purpose of this program is to provide you with a full understanding of telephone etiquette and some specific steps to follow when both incoming and outgoing calls.
Hello, and welcome to our seminar on effective telephone. My name is Mr. Woodson, and I'll be your instructor. Before we get started, why don't you give me your names?
Nicole Moore. I'm Jason Young.
Hi, I'm Stacy Weddington.
No.
And I'm Tracy Sullivan.
Really glad to have you all here today. We want to teach how to handle types of business telephone communications. The telephone is the most widely used business communications tool, and as with any tool, it takes training and practice to use it properly. The booklets I'm going to pass around to show you the various features of telephones that we'll be using for our practice. Now, although these features will vary model to model as far as where they are on the phones, the functions that they perform will basically remain the same. Sophisticated telephone systems offer many features you should learn to use to your best advantage. Okay? Let's get started. The first thing we need to discuss is, what do you do when the telephone rings?
I know. You answer it.
Well, that's a start. But there are a couple of things you should before you reach for the receiver. And this thing is to set it. Good posture is essential in projecting a good tone of voice. The next thing you should do is smile. Now, I know this sounds kind of silly, but in reality, good posture and smile are conveyed to the telephone lines. Now you're sitting up straight, you're smiling. The telephone rings. When do you answer it? On the second, do you wait a certain number of rings to get up?
You know, people say that if you answer on the first ring, that people will think you're too for their business.
Well, I don't know who started that, but ideally answer the telephone promptly on the first ring if possible. Under no circumstance allow the phone to ring more than 3 times. The next is to answer in a courteous, professional manner. Now, if you're a switchboard operator or a receptionist, the person for calling, identify your company, and try the nature of the call. You could say, "Thank you for calling me machine. How may I help you?" Or, "Thank you for calling machinery. How may I direct your call?" Now, this initial response will let the caller know that you appreciate them company and that they haven't reached the company that they were trying to contact. And most importantly, you are interested in connecting with the person that can help them the most. Now, if you work in another company, identify the department. You can say customer service. This is Paul, customer service, me speaking. Always use good grammar. Avoid using slang terms like yeah or uh-huh. Remember that by using grammar, you're presenting yourself and your company in a business-like, professional, and never eat or chew gum or do anything that would muddle your speech. Avoid trimming endings from or running them to. Proper enunciation is crucial, especially if you're with clientele on a national or international basis. Now, the last segment we want with is taking messages. Everyone who uses a business telephone one time or another will be required to take a message. There are some guidelines that you should follow to ensure that the information you are relaying is accurate and complete. First, you need to record the caller's full name. of using Joe or Johnson. The world is Joe's and Mr. Johnson, and the person returning the call must know exactly who they need to reach. You will see an example of this a little later. The next step, record the telephone number, including the area code. You need to be extremely accurate because one digit or inverted digits results in a U message. You also need to find out the caller is with. Busy executives are often swamped with calls from various individuals and organizations. Obviously, some calls are more important than others. One way for them to determine which calls are urgent and which ones can be later is to know what company the caller is with. It is also very important the date and time of each call. Here's an example of that. The boss is out of town on business. Monday at 2 p.m., Jim Stevens of AS Manufacturing calls, inform him of delayed shipping of a much-needed product. This afternoon at 3:30 p.m., your boss calls Mr. Stevens to check about the status of his first order. Mr. Stevens informs the delay and the two of them resolve the problem. Thursday morning, your boss returns to the office, and while going through his, he finds one from Jim Stevens with no time at all.
My shipment's going to be late again.
Yes, Market Precision Pump. I need with Jim Stevens.
Yes? Rescue online? Put him through for me.
Good morning, Mark. This morning was fine until I got this message on additional delay in my shipment. What seems to be the problem? Company can't manage to deliver on time. I'll find one that can.
What other delay? When we spoke Monday afternoon, I promised you that you get your order by the 1st of the month.
You mean this message from Monday and there isn't going to be any further delay?
Oh, sir, absolutely not.
Then I owe you an apology for blowing my staff.
I'm sure now you have seen the importance of a time and listed on each message. The next step in the message-making process is to reference the nature of the call. Short notes such as status of purchase order number 3216 will help the person who will be returning the call prepare the conversation. They can research the information the caller is requesting ahead of time. It's also extremely helpful to determine the urgency of a reply. A step that is often overlooked is to sign your name or initials at the bottom. That way, if the person the message is for has any questions, then they will know who to contact. Finally, read the message back to the caller to make sure you have accurately recorded all information. Often you may find a caller forgotten to include some important. Don't be afraid to ask questions if you're sure about anything. It is much more professional to ask questions than it is inaccurate, incomplete information. We've discussed answering the telephone. Let's take a look at a short film clip of a receptionist at one local company. I believe you will see why her supervisor decided to enroll her in our effective telephone technique seminar.
I wish somebody else get that.
Yeah.
Is this the Continental Company?
Yeah.
This is John Joseph of Express Leasing. May I speak to Mr. Sims?
Ain't here.
Do you know when you're returning to the office?
I'm not his personal babysitter.
As soon as Mr. Sims returns, could you please have him give me a call? It's extremely urgent.
Okay,
My number is
Oh, wait a minute. I gotta find right on. Okay.
My number is 611-555-7777. Tell him I need to know how many large vans he'll need for this weekend.
Okay, Joe, I'll ask him how many cans he needs. Bye. Let's see, 777-555 or 55777. Eeny, miny, no.
Okay, and can you tell me what you did wrong?
It'd be easier to tell you what right. Nothing. And answer promptly, didn't smile, and posture, well, it's terrible.
Right, anything else?
When she finally answered the phone, she was not very courteous. And she didn't identify the company or ask the caller who he would like to speak with.
What else?
Her grammar was atrocious, and she couldn't speak clearly with a lot of gum in her mouth.
Well, how about the message she took?
What message? She just some incomplete information on a napkin that happened to be lying around and then threw it on her desk instead of putting it in the message box.
Exactly right. I believe how important it is to put all the info that you can on the message take. Mr. Sims had gotten the message. He wouldn't know who had called, what time they called, or wanted. And I'm convinced from what we've shared that you understand much more to answering the telephone, simply reaching for the receiver. Ain't all. Let's drop in now on our receptionist, see if she's learned anything from our effective telephone technique seminar.
Thank you for choosing Continental Truck Company. May I help you?
This is John Joseph from Express Leasing. May I speak with Miss Sims, please?
I'm sorry, Mr. Joseph. Mr. Sims is in the office right now. Make a message.
Yes, could you have him return my call? I need to check with him about how many large vans he needs for this weekend. Extremely urgent.
May I have your telephone number?
Yes, it's area 611, the number 555-7777.
Okay, Mr. Joseph, make sure the correct information. That's John Joseph from Express Leasing, telephone number 1155-7777. We're a number of large vans this weekend. Is that correct?
That's it.
Thank you for calling. I'll see them receives your message as soon as he returns.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Goodbye.
Quite a bit of improvement, you see. Now let's review what we've learned about answering the telephone. Remember that before you answer the telephone, you should sit up straight, smile, and be attentive. Answer on the first ring if possible, never later than the third ring. Using courteous, business-like manner for phone communications projects a professional image for both you and your employer. Use good grammar, speak clearly, and speak directly into the headset. This is especially important when having to deal with callers on a national or international basis. When taking messages, be sure to include the caller's first and last name. Record the complete telephone number, including area code, list name of the company, and the time of the call. reference of the call. A short note helps the person returning the call prepare for the conversation. Sign name or initials in case of question. The last thing to her is to read the information back to the caller for accuracy. Now that we've discussed answering the phone, let's look at some different types of calls you may encounter. The first we want to deal with is screening calls. Now, if you're a reception or switchboard operator, you may require to screen your employer's call. This means that you only allow calls to be put through certain organizations or individuals. Now, even though this is true, don't use the line, "He's in a meeting." That conveys to the caller that your boss doesn't talk to them. Instead of saying he's in a meeting, say he's unavailable and take a message. Let's add another wrinkle to this scenario. Say it tells you to hold all calls except for one from Jim Smith of ABC Corporation. Later that day, the phone rings. The caller on the other end, without identifying himself, speaks to the boss. You take a message. He identifies himself as Jim Smith from ABC Corporation. Don't then say, "Oh, he just walked." But be professional and say, "Sir, he did ask to interrupt him when you call." Now, what you've by doing is followed your boss's instructions and you've presented yourself in a professional and businesslike manner. The next thing we need to discuss concerning incoming calls is placing a person on hold. Hold buttons are located at different places, different models of phones, but the function they perform is the same. When you put a person on hold, you are temporarily disconnecting them from your station in order to transfer them to another person or to gather information. And there are some guidelines that we should follow to ensure smooth telephone communications. Remember, when you place a person on hold, it is essential that you know your company's personnel. Some companies produce company directories that list each employee and give their extension number. To avoid transferring a caller to the wrong department, it's important that you know the job description of each employee. Remember, when you place a person on hold, try not to leave them there for more than 30 or 40 seconds. Studies have shown that people placed on hold for longer periods of time may become frustrated and even hang up. Now, if you know that the information you're researching is going to take a longer period of time to put together, inform the caller of this and see if they would like to remain on hold or if they would prefer that you take their number and call them back. Now, if you place a person on hold to transfer them to another section of your company, watch and see if that call is answered within 30 or 40 seconds. If it's not, take a message. Remember, when you place a caller on hold, you are responsible for seeing that that call is answered. The last segment we need to deal with concerning handling incoming calls is how to deal with the irate customer.
Shipping, Brad.
This is Kent Mosby at Industrial Technologies. I placed an order last week for some bearings for a client.
Hold on. Industrial Technologies. Your purchase order? Never mind, I found it. You ordered 6 4-inch bearings.
That's right. That's what I ordered. What I received was 4 6-inch bearings.
So we were off by a couple inches. Everybody makes mistakes.
But your mistake is costing me business. I have a client with a piece of machinery he can't operate because I can't get him the bearings he needs. And if I can't get him what he wants, he'll have to get him somewhere else. I've got to have those bearings today.
Well, look, I just can't stop everything to fill your order. I got a lot of customers to deal with. I'll try to have them out by tomorrow afternoon.
Tomorrow afternoon? That's just not acceptable. My client can't wait that long.
Well, that's the best I can do. I don't know what else I can tell you.
Well, I certainly know what to tell you.
Now, there is an 8-step procedure that you should follow when you're dealing with someone that's upset. And the first step is don't buy into it. What I mean when I say this is don't get involved in a shouting match over the telephone. You will only add fuel to the fire, and in the end, both you and your company will lose. Instead of participating in a verbal jousting match, listen to the caller's complaint. Often when a person has a chance to get something off their chest, they will be more receptive to solutions that you may offer. Next, show empathy, not sympathy. Sympathy tends to show agreement with a person, whereas empathy will let the caller know you acknowledge that there is a problem. Tell the person you apologize or regret the inconvenience, and then work towards a solution. One way to diffuse a caller's anger is to ask questions. By asking a question, the person has to stop and think about an answer, and it will also show them you have a genuine interest in resolving the difference. The next step is to offer options. Tell the caller what you can do instead of what you cannot do. If you're working in the customer service department and you receive a call concerning the accounting department, don't tell the caller, "That's not my department," or "You'll have to speak with the accounting department." Instead, tell them, "If you will give me your number or your purchase order, I'll check about the status of your invoice." You now have the person working with you instead of against you. Next, always move toward a positive solution. The sooner you begin resolving differences, the better off you'll be. A satisfied customer is one who will look to your company in the future. A dissatisfied customer is one who will look elsewhere. This next step may seem somewhat ironic, but you should always thank the person for calling. Now you may say, "Why would I want to thank someone who has just spent the last few moments chewing my ear off?" The fact of the matter is, often a person who is calling to complain may alert you to problems within your company that no one else had realized existed. By confronting the issue and constructively solving the problem, you may have an important impact on the future operations and profitability of your company. Ultimately, it will reflect positively on you and your career with that company. The last step, and probably the most crucial, is to follow through on your commitment. Never promise something you can't deliver just to calm an irate caller.
Shipping, this is Brad.
Brad, this is Kent Mosby at Industrial Technologies. I placed an order last week for some bearings for a client. What I ordered was 6 4-inch bearings. What I received was 4 6-inch bearings.
Okay, if you'll give me your purchase order number, I'll see if the order was entered correctly. Okay, here it is. You ordered 6 4-inch bearings and you were shipped, 4 6-inch bearings. I am very sorry. Well, I'll redo this order immediately, and I'll have it on the first truck in the morning. You should receive the correct order by noon.
But my client has an expensive piece of machinery he can't operate because I can't get him the bearings he needs. I've got to have that order today.
Well, all of our trucks are out right now, but I could send it by courier if that'd be all right. After all, it was our mistake.
That's great, Brad. Thanks for your help.
Well, you're welcome, and thank you. I assure you that in the future we'll be more careful.
Before we move on, I'd like you to think about this statement that pretty much sums up what we've discussed in the first part of our program. A satisfied customer will tell 4 other people about your company, but a dissatisfied customer will tell 10 other people. What we discussed in the first part of our program was how to handle various types of incoming calls. Now we need to learn how to place a phone call.
Mr. Woodson, I've been using the telephone to call friends since I was in elementary school. How much different can it be to use the phone to call other businesses?
Well, while the basic procedures are the same, there are several other differences. For example, when you called your friend, you probably weren't dialing long distance or dialing across different time zones.
No, my friend just lived a couple of blocks from me. I just picked up the receiver and dialed the number.
How did you know what number to dial?
I looked in the telephone directory.
Aha, the good old telephone directory. Do you realize that you were using one of the most effective companion tools of the business telephone? The telephone directory provides a wealth of information for organizations doing business on a local level. It's divided into 2 sections, the white pages and the yellow pages. The white pages contain telephone numbers of residents listed alphabetically by the last name of the occupant. Subsequent listings are then alphabetized by the person's first name or initial. The Yellow Pages are also listed alphabetically, but by the service or product supplied. For instance, if you were looking for office furniture, you would turn to the Yellow Page section with the heading of Office. Subheadings may contain listings for businesses that provide furniture, office space, or supplies. Words such as the or a that precede a company name are usually dropped. Your telephone directory also contains listings for a number of services provided by that company. Located in the first section of your phone book, you will find telephone numbers for emergency services such as police, fire, or ambulance, listings for community service organizations, area codes for major cities nationwide, and numbers for local and national directory assistance. Now that we have a working knowledge of the telephone directory, let's examine what the telephone number consists of. Local numbers, or numbers in your specific calling area, consist of a 7-digit number. The first 3 numbers are the code for the local exchange. The last 4 numbers are the individual line. There are no extended charges for these calls, and they can be placed by simply dialing the 7-digit number. When placing calls outside your local calling area, you are assessed a fee in addition to the standard telephone company charge. These calls can be accomplished 2 different ways. The first, and the least expensive, is direct dialing, which simply means you dial the number yourself without having the operator help you. These calls can be made if you are within the same area code by dialing a 1 and then the 7-digit number. Calls placed outside of your area code require dialing a 1, then the area code for the region you are dialing, then the 7-digit number. Another way to place long-distance calls is called operator-assisted calling. Now, this is the most expensive form of calling, and it should only be used when you're having trouble completing your call, or if you want to make a special service call, such as person-to-person.
Mr. Woodson, what is a person-to-person call?
That's when the person placing the call only wishes to speak to a certain individual at the company contacted. Now, if that individual is unavailable, you won't be charged for the call. Knowing the various options of long-distance calling will save you time and your company money. Now, we've discussed using the telephone directory, the parts of the telephone number, and how to dial long distance. Now, let's take a look at a couple of ways to make the business telephone communication more efficient. Many businesses are conducted on a nationwide scale, and you must take into consideration the differences in time. There can be as much as 3 hours variance between East Coast and West Coast. Say your business is located in California and you need to place a call to someone in New York. Be sure that you remember to schedule the call during the hours that your New York counterparts will be in their office. Remember, California is 3 hours behind East Coast time. And also remember to schedule your calls when your New York counterparts won't be away at lunch. One other way to use the business telephone efficiently is referred to as the R&R method. R&R stands for Research Information and Rehearse Presentation. Now, these are some of the simplest yet least utilized means of reducing the amount of time spent conducting business communications. For example, you may need to return a call to a customer who's checking on the status of an order. Now, the first thing you do is contact your accounting or your data entry department and get a copy of the purchase order. Next, call shipping or the warehouse and find out if the merchandise has been sent out. And if it hasn't, find out the reasons for the delay. Then when you return the call to the customer, you'll be armed with all the information you need to handle any question that they might pose. The second part of the R&R method concerns planning exactly what you want to accomplish with any phone call. Take a few moments and write out questions or key points that you wish to convey. By creating a guideline and sticking with it, it will help you to avoid unnecessary conversation that doesn't pertain to the business at hand. Remember, long-distance phone calls are billed by the minute, and anything that you can do to keep your conversation to a minimum will result in savings for your company. And speaking of savings, some companies have 800 numbers. With an 800 number, the company who has them has to pay for the cost of the call. To find out if the company you need to contact has an 800 number, dial 800 information at 1-800-555-1212. Before we close today, I would like you to consider this. It is estimated that over 75% of entry-level jobs in the next few years will, in some way, involve using the telephone. Receptionists, secretaries, PBX operators, customer service representatives, telemarketers, and a host of others will all need to make use of the skills we have been presented with here today. By following these simple guidelines, you can open the door to a world of opportunities in telecommunications. Thank you for attending our Telephone Techniques seminar.
Each year, over 5 billion pounds of toxic chemicals are released into the air in the United States. These emissions cause over 2,000 cancer deaths a year.
No news is good news.
Our nation is littered with over 300,000 hazardous waste sites, which leak poisons into the water supplies of 120 million Americans.
Ignorance is bliss.
3 out of 5 Americans live in an area where the air is contaminated beyond federal health standards. Chances are, the air, the water, or the land where you live is endangering the health of you and your family. In 1986, a law was passed that gives you the right to know if the area in which you live is contaminated by toxic chemicals. Wouldn't you like to know?